Hey, I'm Matt from Monty's, and today I'm going to show you how to restring a telecaster. Right, so we're about to start to restring the telecaster, but you're going to need a few tools before that, for it. First of all, you're going to need some lighter fluid or naphtha. You're going to need some cutters. You're going to need a toothbrush, weirdly. You're going to need a string winder. Don't need one as big as this one. Some kitchen roll and some form of fretboard conditioner. This is our instrument food. Oh, and you're also going to need a tuner. And these might help. Some strings. Step 1, get rid of the old strings. So to do this, it's fairly simple. If I did it the right way. Take it off. All of the strings are now loose enough I can pull them off. Now, I could pull them all through, but 9 times out of 10, these ends that were around the machine head to get all chewed up together, and then you can scratch the top and stuff. So I prefer just to get these and say bye-bye. And another tip, wrap them up like this. So it goes round once and then link them through together. And that won't fire apart when it's in your bin. So now the strings are off, we need to clean the board and moisturise it, because that's what you should do. Right, for that, you're going to need the naphtha or lighter fluids. We're going to need some instrument food, and this is where the toothbrush comes in. Right, so we're going to put a little bit of naphtha on the board by each fret and use the toothbrush going into the fret. This gets rid of all of the horrible bits of grime that build up around that area. So I'm just going to go all the way down the board doing this. So I've done the toothbrush thing, but sometimes what that can do is can leave, because you've released loads of grime, it could still be a little bit more on the board. So I'm going to do a quick flash of this, buff it off, and then we're all good to go. So, right, so the board is all clean, but also what the naphtha does is it dries the wood out a little bit. So what we need to do is condition it. This is our instrument food, which is a conditioning wax. So you just get a little bit of that, and you rub it into the wood. So the board is all conditioned. There's instrument food sat on it. We need to leave it for about 5 to 10 minutes to let the instrument food do its magic, and then we can buff it off. I'm gonna go make a cup of tea. So I've been a good boy and been patient. It's 10 minutes has passed, and now we buff it off. Let's get going. Right, so you can see now the board is, well, the grain's popping. It's looking really nice and rich, really moisturised and fed. So we're all ready to go. The guitar's in tip-top condition. So now I'm going to get my strings out of the packet, thread them through from the back, and we can start the restringing operation. I find it easiest to get the guitar upright, and then you can thread it through. Some bridges are not very well aligned to the holes in the back, so it can be a bit, it's a struggle to get them through, but persevere. Also, one thing to remember is never force the string open. Don't sort of pull in it or anything, because then you can create kinks in the string and they'll never vibrate properly. What you should be able to do is literally hold it by the ball end and flick it. Ta-da! Right, one thing to make sure, and especially with tellies, is that the strings are all the way through. It's really easy for one of them to come out and get caught when you're pulling it down, so when you're pulling them through, so the ball end could be stuck out, and then you'll tune it up and it will suddenly pop through and there'll be a giant kink in the string, which you don't want. Right, so now we're working at the other end. The strings are all through, and we've got to cut them to length. Okay, so with these machine heads, which are the vintage style ones, you always pre-cut them. So to measure them out, the bass strings I would cut at about 2.5 machine heads. So if you pull it through, again, make sure the ball end's in the thingy on the back. Measure, so this is the E string, that's the E string machine head, and you've got the A string, the D string, halfway between the D and the G. That's where I would cut it. So there we go. So I would do that for all of the wound strings. So on the A string, you would go the D, the G, halfway between the G and the B. Likewise for the D. So that'd be halfway between the E and the B. Now, on tellies, there can be a little issue with the G string, which means that the break angle over the nut isn't enough. So I personally like to put quite a lot of winds on there. You don't need to worry about tuning stability as long as you stretch your strings in fine, it's all good. So I would get the G string, pinch it by the G machine head, pull it all the way back to the E string and then cut it at the high E string. So it's like 6 machine heads. Because the E and the B string, again, I leave a little bit longer so we get more winds. The reason for that is that you've got this thing here, which is a string tree. The string will go over the nut down to the string tree, and you want to have as little friction caused by that string tree as possible. Because then if you do have friction, it can create tuning problems, all that kind of stuff. Right, so we need to cut the B string to length. I would grab the B string, put it back to the E string and cut it at the B string, so like 5 machine heads. And the high E, I would do the same thing. There you go, all prepped, ready to be wound on. Right, now we're going to put the strings on. I realise I might be compensating for something with this thing, but it helps. What you do, make sure the ball end is in the ferrule on the back. Most important. Pull over the string. Right, we need to get the string into the hole on the top, right down to the bottom, so it can't move anymore. And then you pull it over there and kink it round. So that should be held tight now. You can see with my fingers are doing some weird kind of arabesque thing, if you get the ballet reference. And that keeps tension on the string as it's going around the machine head. So now we're tying it on. There you go. All the winds have to go down. Only 5 more strings to go. So the strings are all on. The next thing is we need to tune it up because it sounds horrible. Right, now I've just tuned them all, but they need stretching in because it's not bad. But then if I pull them like this, that's gone down a whole tone. That's what's happening there is the string's kind of stretching in, it's tightening up around the machine head and in all the bridge stuff, that kind of thing. So we just need to stretch it in, then tune it up, and maybe need to do that process a couple of times, 3 times, and then you should all be ready to go. When you're stretching the strings, just put a couple, 2 or 3 fingers behind the string and pull it away slightly, not too aggressively. That should be enough. Done. Okay, I hope that video has helped you learn to restring your Telecaster. We'll have loads more videos coming out soon. If there's anything particular you'd like us to cover, then just put it in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that shiz whiz. See you next time.